The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the game that was 5 years in development, delayed twice and was supposed to be a Nintendo Wii U exclusive, but ended up being the last game Nintendo produced for the Wii U and went on to become a launch title for the Nintendo Switch. It was critically acclaimed and won numerous awards and went on to win Game of the Year 2017. But was the game really that good? Well, in my opinion, yes, but no game can be perfect. So if Nintendo decide to release a Breath of the Wild 2 using the same engine, here are 9 things I think they need to do to improve the game. Number 1. A way to escape the rain. The rain in Breath of the Wild, a mechanic hated by everyone, including myself, but it's a mechanic I think the game needs, because when you introduce something like climbing, where you can climb anywhere you want, you need something that's going to hinder you a little bit from doing that, otherwise the game will become too easy. But my problem with the rain is when you are climbing, there's nothing you can do about it. If you're on the ground and it's raining, there's ways around that, which we'll get to later. But my problem is when you're half up a wall and it starts to rain, there is nothing you can do apart from fall to your death or transport to a shrine or a tower. Now what I want is something just to help you finish the climb. I know an easy option would be to do some armour or some gloves that would help you climb in the wet, but like I said, that would take a challenge away. I don't want nothing like that. What I want is possibly just an elixir, what will give you an extra stamina wheel, what will help you climb in the wet, so once it's used it's gone. Or maybe just 2 minutes of climb time. Maybe it's elixir you can only get from Zora's Domain. So it's a challenge to get that. You have to get certain ingredients to get that. And you can only carry them on you. If you don't have an elixir, well, it's your fault, you can't climb in the rain. But if you're prepared, you can do it. As I mentioned earlier, if you're on the ground when it starts to rain, there are ways around it. You can set up a fire and pass the time, hoping that when you've passed it to morning, afternoon or night, it is not raining no more, then you can climb that mountain. But sometimes you can't find shelter, you can't light the fire without shelter. Now another thing I would like to see added is the ability to make tents using materials I've found in the wild. Maybe use some wood and some animal hide to make a tent, and you can climb inside it and you can build a fire. So you can make a shelter to hide out the rain, just so you can pass the time. Number 2. Rowing boats and the ability to fish. Now this one is completely self-indulgent, but I honestly can't believe that this mechanic wasn't introduced already. I mean, wouldn't it be incredible just to jump on a proper rowing boat, glide out to the middle of Lake Hylia and just do some proper fishing. Just sat there with a fishing rod, casting in and just chilling out and catching fish. The game is already tranquil and chilled, and I just honestly cannot believe that this wasn't already incorporated into the game. I mean, it has been in so many games before. It was in A Link's Awakening. It was of course in Ocarina of Time, which everyone loves that game for fishing. You can go and just spend hours on that game just fishing without even playing the main quest. And it even got incorporated into Majora's Mask 3D when it got released on the 3DS. And I just assumed it would have been in this game, especially such an open and diverse game where fish are actually a big part of the game. You can actually make some really good recipes with the fish. So wouldn't it have just been so much better if you could go and catch rare fish, if there was certain fish in certain areas of the map and some are more rare to catch than others. And it just made a challenge of it. There could have been so much done. There could have been fishing challenges, there could have been side quests. The stuff is endless and I really cannot believe it wasn't in. But also on the same token, like I said, I would love to have proper rowing boats that you would go out into Lake Hylia or up the river. Because for me, the way you got around on water in this game just felt so primitive. The way it was just a log raft tied together and you would have to use a crock leaf to blow wind to travel you about. I just wasn't happy at all with this whole process. I want a proper boat that you can sit in, get some oars and row yourself about. It was done so well in Twilight Princess, which is another game that really does fishing well. So yeah, come on, we need to sort this out for the next game. We need fishing brought back. Number 3. More tactical fights. When I say more tactical fights, I don't mean the dungeon bosses, because for all they were faceless and generic, I did find those fights very fun and entertaining, and they were very unique as well, as you were either fighting in the air, or you're fighting with water, or even fighting with the speed of electricity. I just did find them a challenge. What I'm talking about is the overworld fights, where you are fighting bokoblins, or you are fighting Hinixes. They just seem to be very repetitive. You were fighting the low level enemies and you would just run away from them or swing a sword like crazy. Or you were fighting mini bosses, which were the Hinixes or the Moldiggers, and you would just find one strategy and stick to it. You would either stasis and arrow them in the eye, or you would do the Moldigger fight where you drop your bomb on the desert and then you would come up and then you attack them. And I just want some challenging fights. For me, the best fight in the game is fighting a Lionel. It really is, without doubt. And I constantly go back to fight them every time there's a blood moon because I love the challenge. There is so many different ways to fight a Lionel. You can do the shield parry, you can do the flurry rush, you can mount the back of them and hurt them that way. There is just so many different ways to fight a Lionel. And never is two fights the same. And I just enjoy doing it. But I want more of that. I want more enemies I can go out and actively hunt down and just enjoy fighting and just get good at fighting. Because it really is a good experience when you get good at something and you go back to do it every time there's a blood moon because you enjoy it. We need more of that. Number 4. Meaningful side quests. What we need is more quests that give you the feeling of accomplishment. Yes, Breath of the Wild had a good amount of side quests, but when you broke them down, they were basically just fetch quests. Go and collect 10 of this, or go and collect 10 of that. What we need is more quests like Tarrytown. Now, when you break that down, it is still a fetch quest. Go and collect people with sun in their name. But the difference for Tarrytown was, you seen you were making a difference. After every segment of the quest was completed, the town grew. And there was a whole storyline of the wedding. And when you finished that quest, you just felt like you'd accomplished something and that you'd made a difference in the game. And you just contributed to the game somehow. So we just need more of that. Even before Tarrytown, when you built your house, you felt like you made a difference in the game. You were contributing to your own house by adding furniture. And when you feel like you made a difference in a game, you yourself feel better about it. Number 5. Forge your own weapons and arrows. One of the biggest problems a lot of people had with Breath of the Wild was weapon durability and the fact that it didn't last very long. But honestly, I loved it about the game. It always kept you on your toes, changing your tactics and styles, trying to find what weapons work best for you. And the sheer volume of weapons was just mind blowing. I mean, you could be using a ladle 1 minute, then the next minute you've got your master sword in your hand or a Lionel crusher. And even if you didn't have a weapon at all, just get a boulder and push it down a hill. But don't get me wrong, there was times when you're using your favourite weapon and all of a sudden it broke and you had to go and find another one. You had to go and either find a chest with one in, or most of the time you would find an enemy and take it from the enemy. What I would really like is the ability to repair, improve and even make new weapons from scratch using raw materials found out in the game world. Now imagine your sword is broken and you go to a blacksmith and you ask that person to repair your weapon. Of course for a price, either with diamonds or rubies or sapphires. But let's say if you could infuse a diamond into this sword and make it stronger. How about infuse a ruby to make it more durable? How about a sapphire which will give it a quicker strike? Just being able to improve on weapons that you've already gained in the game I think would be incredible. But as well as improving and repairing weapons, imagine making some from scratch. You hear rumours of a sacred sword passed down from the Gorons that can only be made in the fires of Death Mountain. You have to go and collect certain materials that can build this weapon. How about collecting timber from the Deku tree and going and getting a bow made from the right ore? The possibilities really are endless. As for forging your own arrows, I really can't believe that this isn't already in the game. I mean, all the stuff is there to do it with. You already have flint, which you can use as tips. Wood is aplenty everywhere. I just don't know why using the equipment you already have you can't just make arrows. Even if you couldn't make them yourself, even if you had to go somewhere to pass these materials over to get them made for you instead of having to buy them from shops. But again, the materials are already in the game to make elemental arrows. You could easily infuse a fire choo-choo with the arrow, or electric choo-choo with the arrow to make elemental weapons. But again, you could take it even further. How about you get feathers from birds, and then with these feathers you have different abilities. One could have longer range, one could have a truer aim. Little details like this would be a real game changer for me. Number 6. Dungeons. Yet another big gripe from Zelda fans was the fact that there was no dungeons included in Breath of the Wild. But I think there was. If you break it down, we had 120 shrines. We had 4 dungeons, plus the castle, which could count as a dungeon. And if you added on the optional extra of the DLC, there was countless more shrines. And another dungeon with one of the best boss battles in any Zelda game. But for me, it's the individuality we need to bring back to these dungeons. They all seem to merge together. I mean, I did 120 shrines, but I couldn't name one. When I think back, they all just merged together. When I play the game, I think they're great and each one is different. But on reflection, it's just one big dungeon that merges together. What we need is individuality. You think back to Ocarina of Time, every dungeon stands out. You have the water temple and the frustration of it. You have the scariness of the shadow temple. We need to bring that back so people can talk about specific dungeons. But as well as individuality, we need these dungeons to mean something in the game, to actually do something. You think back to Ocarina of Time again in the Deku Tree. He was part of the storyline. You went in to save him and you couldn't save him and he still died. That changed the game. And going on to the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time. When you first went there, the lake was empty. But when you finished it, the lake filled up and that was a change in the entire game. From then on, you could move around in the lake. It was filled back up. We need real game-changing dungeons, individuality and world-changing aspects. As well as all this though, I really do think we need to bring back weapon-specific dungeons. I know it's hard in an open-world game to have a weapon where they are all durable, but why not have them so you can only use it in a dungeon? How about if you enter a dungeon, you download either the Megaton Hammer or a hookshot to your Shaker Slate and it's only usable in that dungeon. And once you're finished, it gets wiped off again. I just love how when you have different weapons for different dungeons, they can create a dungeon around that weapon and it makes the puzzles so much more fun and entertaining. Number 7. Storyline. Whether or not Breath of the Wild had a good storyline is always up for debate. And if you're just an average player playing through, it doesn't look very good. You basically learn the whole storyline within the first hour of gameplay on the Great Plateau. And if you're going to do the 4 Divine Beasts, yes, you get the memory here and there, and you can also grab a memory here and there as you're heading towards Hyrule Castle. But the majority of players will not get the full story. Now, if you're a die-hard Zelda fan and you go out of your way to speak to every character in the game, find every journal there is to be read, like Princess Zelda's diary, their storyline is very in-depth. There's also a book being released called Creating a Champion, and if you read that alongside the game, there is such a deep history to this world of Hyrule. But that's a problem, it's all history. Everything you hear about in the game is from history. 10,000 years ago, 100 years ago, everything you collect is a memory or a journal. There is no actual storyline to the game that happens as you are playing. What we need is a storyline to play out as you play the game, where we need things to happen as you progress through the game. I understand that Nintendo wanted to make everything optional, and that included the storyline. But you could still make the storyline optional, but also make it meaningful, like you're adding to the game. We need more characters in the game that don't just add backstory, but actually progress you forward with the story. I know Nintendo have stated many times that they concentrate firstly on gameplay and then they make a story fit around the gameplay. But one reason why Legend of Zelda has such a huge following is the lore that you've created around these games. The stories, and fans love piecing these stories together and thinking of theories and ideas of how everything works. But for me, Breath of the Wild is the game that has the most questions and the least answers. And for me, it's probably one of the laziest of the storylines that there has been in a Zelda game. Number 8. Progression. The most important thing in any game is progression, the feeling like you're moving forward with the game. Now in Zelda games, you would normally do this by progressing the story forward by completing dungeons, or you progress Link forward by making them stronger and making them grow as a character. But you don't get none of this in Breath of the Wild, I feel. Like with Link, there's no new moves to learn, there's no magic to upgrade. There's no bomb bags to make bigger. There was just no growth with Link as a character, and like I said, it lacked storyline and dungeons, so there was no story progression as you continued on. One of the main reasons I think everyone loved the Great Plateau was because that was the only place in the game you felt real progression. You started off with nothing. You left the cave, and from there you found your first weapon, your first bow. You went and did shrines for the first time, you got all these new runes. On the Great Plateau there was guardians to fight, enemies to fight. You learned the whole storyline while you're on the Great Plateau, and then it ends. After that, the rest of the game will be a giant epilogue to what you've just done. After that, all progression is lost. Yeah, you can go and start doing shrines to upgrade your health or your stamina, or you could just eat a meal. Yeah, you can go and find armour to up your defence, or again, just cook a meal. If you play the game on Master Mode, before you even leave the Great Plateau you can kill a Lionel and leave with a Lionel Crusher, a ×3 bow and bomb arrows. So you're totally overpowered. From the moment you leave the Great Plateau, there's just nothing else that makes you feel like you grow as a character in the game. You can just go straight to Ganon and complete the game. Number 9. Loft Wings. Now this isn't what the game needs, this is just what I would want. But imagine how cool it would be flying around the world of Hyrule, Breath of the Wild, on a Loftwing, exploring everything from the sky. Just give a little whistle and your sidekick appears, and the next thing you know you're soaring over mountaintops and over lakes and over historical Zelda landmarks. Now I know the trouble with this is it would take exploration right out the game, so you could make it as a worthwhile reward for exploring all of Hyrule. If this could be a reward for something like the Korok seeds you had to collect, where you explored every inch of the map, and for doing so you received the chance to explore the world on the back of Loftwing, so that way you've already explored everything that is to be seen. Now it just makes travelling a whole lot easier and a whole lot more fun. So there we go. If Nintendo ever decided to make a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild using the same engine as they did, there are my 9 things I think the game needs to really improve it. Now don't get me wrong, some of those things I've mentioned do sound like I don't like the game, but I really do. It is actually up there as my second favourite game of all time. In fact, if I wasn't so nostalgic for A Link to the Past, it would probably be my favourite game of all time. But like I said, these are just some things that I think that would make the game even better. So what do you think? Do you agree with any of them? Do you disagree with any of them? Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and remember, it's dangerous to go alone. So hit that subscribe button and I will see you all in the next video.